Hey, Jordan here. Today I'll show you how to prepare a workflow in Comfy Image Workshop. Head on over to the help/getting started page for the text instructions in Comfy Image Workshop. First, let's start our ComfyUI server. Now let's start up Visual Studio Code. We will set up our workspace and load in the Comfy Image Workshop folder. Now we will activate our virtual environment and start the Flask server. You just have to deactivate this one here. Now I will run the Flask server. All right, let's start preparing the workflow. First, we will go to this CIW directory, Comfy Image Workshop, app blueprints generation. Let's open this up here and go into Comfy Image Workshop, into app blueprints generation. Now on to step 2, we'll make a copy of the demo workflow directory in the same directory and give it a name appropriate to the workflow you are creating. For the sake of this example, I will use my new workflow. Now we will open my new workflow, templates, and rename the demo workflow with my new workflow. So we'll go into my new workflow. We're looking for the templates folder here, and we also need to change this to the exact same name. The reason why we're renaming both of these folders is because this is how Flask is set up for their naming convention for the templates to work. And the templates are the HTML files. On to step 4. Now go into Comfy Image Workshop at blueprints help templates/help and make a copy of the demo workflow.html file and rename it to my new workflow. This is where you'll be listing all the dependencies for your workflow. Now we'll go into help, templates, help, copy this, paste it, rename it to my new workflow. Now go to Comfy Image Workshop app and open up app.py. Now we'll open this up in Visual Studio Code here. And then we'll search for edit 1. It's at the top, but I'll just search for it since we'll be doing this a lot for the next steps. Now, if you watch the Dress You Up installation video, you would have already changed this and you don't need to do anything else for it. But if you haven't watched that video, make sure you update your username here to whatever your system username is. And I added the myYAI in here because I put it into a subdirectory to make it easier to show you guys how to install the Comfy Image Workshop app. All right, I'll leave it since I've already done it from before. On to step 7. We will search for edit 2, then look for the commented out import sample workflow, then rename it to my new workflow. So we'll search for edit 2. Great. Now we will copy what's commented here and we will paste it. And since I have it already set to my new workflow, I'll keep it the same name, but whatever name you choose for your workflow, you need to make sure that it matches here. Now on to step 8, we'll search for edit 3, then look for the commented out register sample workflow, then rename it to my new workflow. And again, you'll name it to whatever you decide your workflow is going to be named. So we will search for edit 3, and we will copy this here and paste it. And we will change this here, but since I'm just going to keep my new workflow, it's going to stay the same here. would also change it here as well. And now we will go to step 9 and go to blueprints generation, my new workflow, and open routes. So now we will go to blueprints, generation, my new workflow, and routes. Now we will search for edit for, and then follow the instructions. And we will update the name of the workflow, Control+H on IP adapter headshot, and replace all occurrences of IP adapter headshot with the name of your workflow. Since we're naming this my_new_workflow, we will change it to that. So Control+H, and we will change it to my new workflow. And then we will replace all. Now we will search for edit 5, which is here, and we'll follow the instructions. So now we'll take a look at all the different workflows in the app/app.py file, then update the IDs to an appropriate number. Must be unique. So depending on how many other workflows are inside of Comfy Image Workshop, you'll have to take a look at the app.py file and see what your ID should be. So in this example here, we see that we've got 1, 2, 3. You can also check on your web server to see how many there are. It was unable to connect because we wrote something in here that caused an error, but if we just press up on our keyboard, python run.py, and run it again, it will come back on. So we see we have 3. I'll go back to the instructions, and I will give it an ID of 4. So we'll take a look where we need to change the 3s. So we'll change all the 3s to 4s. 4, 4, and 4. All right, and then on to edit 6 here. Now what we'll do is we'll update the ID to the same one as above. So now we will change the ID from 3 to 4. Great. Now where are we? Now we're on step 13. I'll skip this step. I will keep the default workflow that's in my new workflow. I'll make a separate video on creating your own custom workflow in the future. All right, on to step 14. Be sure to record any of the custom nodes you downloaded or the models you used in your workflow. Example, checkpoint files, LoRa's, control necks, etc. You'll need to list them in the help file you created earlier. And you'll need to do this just so that you have everything documented for anyone in the future that would like to try out your workflow. Step 15. So I'll just open this up here just so you could see ComfyUI. And we're going to click on the cog icon above QPrompt and look for the enable dev mode options and enable it. This will allow you to download the JSON format of the workflow. So we already have a custom workflow in here, and to be able to download it, what we have to do is we have to click on the cog here, and then we will search for enable dev mode options. Now if we close this, we see that we have a new option here to save as the API format. And then when we click save, as you can see, it saves it as a JSON format, which is exactly what we need for our application. I'll rename this to JSON_workflow.json, and OK. Step 17. Now go to Comfy Image Workshop Blueprints Generation My New Workflow Static.js. So now we'll go to this directory and move our JSON workflow in that directory. Here's my downloads folder, JSON_workflow. The IP adapter JSON file is the workflow that's used in my demo workflow, and it will be helpful for you to review the code because once you play around with it, you will understand how it works. I recommend creating a test workflow page using the invert JSON file because it's a simpler workflow and it will be good practice. All right, on to step 18. Now go to Comfy Image Workshop, Blueprints, Generation, My New Workflow, Static.js. Now open up app.js. All right, let's open up app.js. And search for edit 7. Update the path to your JSON_workflow file. What we'll do is we will select the IP adapter ideal face ID JSON, and we will press Control H to be able to update it to whatever we named our JSON file, our workflow file. So we will name this, let's just scroll down here, we will name it to JSON_workflow, and we will replace all. Now we will select IP adapter headshot and press Control H, and then rename it to your new workflow, and then replace all. So we'll rename it to my new workflow. Great, make sure that that looks like it's the right path, which it is. Match it from up here. Perfect. My new workflow, JSON_workflow, JSON_workflow. Great. All right, step 21. Now go to Comfy Image Workshop, App Blueprints, Generation, My New Workflow, Templates, My New Workflow, and open up index.html. All right, we'll go to My New Workflow, Templates, My New Workflow, and index.html. Just click and drag that in here. You could use this here as well, but figured I'd give you the best of both worlds here. All right, step 22. Search for edit 9 and replace My New Workflow with the same name of your workflow. All right, edit 9. Edit here. Update IP adapter headshot to My New Workflow. So you'll update it to whatever your workflow name is. So we'll just do this. And we will change it to My New Workflow and update. All right, on to step 23. Now we will review the code in our index.html file. Now I'll cover this more in detail when doing the custom workflow video, but I'll give you a brief overview here. You would take a look at all of the different elements in here. You would take a look at the parameters and update whatever settings that you need from your workflow, and you would update it so that it would be represented in your workflow page. Now once you're done reviewing the code in your index.html, now it's time to go to step 25 and take a look at the app.js and understand it. Now you can update the code to match your own workflow to get it to run. So we would go back to our app. This is in My New Workflow. So in here, same thing as the index.html. You will have to understand your workflow and see what elements are required. And I'll cover this in a lot more detail on the custom workflow video. All right, and then on to step 26. Once you have completed your workflow, now go to Comfy Image Workshop, App Blueprints, Generation, Templates, Generation, and open index.html. We'll open up in here this time. Search for edit 10. I mean, it's right there, but we've searched for them all, so we might as well keep doing that. Now you'll update My New Workflow to match your workflow name. Doing this will create a new button on the workflow page here. So we'll copy this. And paste in My New Workflow. And you would update this here. You would Control H, and you would update this to what your new workflow name is. And you will also update the text on the button with your workflow name as well. I'll keep it as this because that's what I'm using for this demo. And now if we refresh the page, we will see my new workflow. Also remove the hashtags here to re-enable the Jinga variable. Now we will go to Comfy Image Workshop App Help Templates Help and open index.html. Basically the same thing as the workflow page here, except we're doing it for the help page as well. So now we'll go back into here and go into help, templates, and index. And now we will search for edit 11, which is right here. Then we will update my new workflow to match your workflow name. So exactly the same as before. We'll copy this, paste it in. You will change the name here and change the name here to match your workflow. I'm going to keep it the same because that's what I've been using for this demo. Also remove the hashtags here to re-enable the Jinga variable. We need to do this other step where we go into our routes.py file within our help. And once we're in here, we will have to create a new route. We'll copy the last one here, paste it in, and then update all of the instances of IP adapter headshot. I'll just do this, Control H. I'll go one at a time instead of replacing all because I don't want to get rid of the ones above. So I'll replace with my new workflow, my new workflow, and my new workflow. We'll close that. And now when we refresh the page, now it's not working at all. That's because when we were writing it, it ended up crashing on us because it probably threw an error. We will run Python run.py and we will refresh the page again. And there we go. Now it's working, and when we click on my new workflow, it will show up as dress you up requirements, and that's because it was part of the that was the demo workflow that I had put in there. So let's go back to the instructions here. Yeah, you'll edit the instructions on how to install the dependency to use in your workflow. So just take a look at the page here and update your my new workflow.html here and just update it so that it matches the dependencies that are required to be able to use your workflow. And that's it. Great job. Now that you've completed your workflow, you can push it to the GitHub repo to be able to share your workflow with the community. Now watch this video here and I'll walk you through how to create your own custom workflow.